Hi everyone, Elizabeth here. Hope summer's been going well. I've been offline for a while. I got married last weekend, so been very busy with that, taking a break from the social media stratosphere, and I just wanted to quickly do a video in thoughts regards to people. We have to understand that there's a difference between people who are on an awakening path versus those who've been on this path for a really long time. It recently just popped in my head, this graffiti that I used to see in Paris, France, and it's realize, real lies. So real eyes, realize, real lies. And it's kind of a fun little quirky, thought to think about, basically, or to ponder about. But when you're talking about real eyes, obviously we have our visual eyes, and then you have your third eye, which is that more gateway to the soul, that more intuitive realm where your third eye can see or sense things that your real eyes cannot. As people are slowly shifting toward an awakening process, a lot of people are realizing the amount of lies that have been spewed from the establishment. I mean, the amount of lies that has been coming from the government and corporate America, local city councils, it's almost beyond a parasitic infestation of constant lies. People can go back and look at Joe Biden, global leaders from around the world, President Castro Trudeau, and they told people that you will not get the virus if you take the shot. And then what happened? All of these presidents somehow got the virus while they were on television getting the shot, which anybody knows they most likely got a water shot, and they probably lied about getting the virus so they can hide or whatever. But still, it's still lies that have been spewed to the mainstream, and people have chosen to constantly believe in this. They believed that wearing a mask would stop the spread of this. They believed that the vaccine would eradicate disease or the virus just the same way as polio and measles and mumps and all of that. And now we're at a point where it's like, well, it's not going to kill, it's not going to prevent you from getting it, it's just going to prevent you from dying. So the lies and the hamster wheel has just been going around and around and around, with lies unpacked on top of more lies on top of more lies. And it's just to the point now where it's just pure insanity. If you look at all the lies that Monsanto has spread about herbicides and pesticides and all these other antibiotic companies that have shot up all those cows with RSBT and said it will not hurt or harm anybody, and then 8 to 10, 12 years later we see cows with a bunch of health issues. You see people who are gluten intolerant and have all of these health issues. Johnson & Johnson getting busted for their safe and effective baby powder, giving cancer to babies. It is beyond disgusting at how many lies and bullshit has been spread to people or marketed through products throughout the last couple by America is a very intelligent country. However, we have been indoctrinated and dumbed down, probably one of the worst in the world, specifically in the Western world. Obviously we are far more advanced than some other countries, but in terms of just breaking apart the family unit and just trusting all of these sources, because we've just been taught to trust anything that's big is known as successful, due to the fact that we have prized and praised monetary gaining a lot of money has been seen as a really great, awesome lifestyle, when in reality most things connected to money is just completely satanic in general, especially if the balance of power or the person is not within balance or in harmony with the material and the spiritual world. So obviously, yes, money can do a lot of great things. However, when you look at people like who win the lottery and things like that, they're never your spiritual junkie. They're very rarely. They're always on a lower vibrational frequency. They become broke. Some former financiers, or let's just say businessmen, have made millions and have gone broke, and the next time they made millions, they actually maintained that because they learned how to care for their mind, body, and spirit. They became more spiritual kind of that second time around. So that's enough of that, but I wanted to talk about, there is a massive difference about people who are just awakening or have been kind of woken up for a little bit versus those who are fully on a path. Let me explain this to you. So this quote-unquote freedom movement has a mix of everybody. It has atheists, religious people, spiritual people, eco-conscious people, let's say vegans, hunters. It has a mix of everybody. And the same thing in the other end of the spectrum, the pro-establishment, the people who are fighting for the establishment, it's a mix of everybody as well. However, there seems to definitely be a lack of disconnect within, let's just say, the Christian community has learned really well on how to help and care for other people, care for the poor. However, they kind of missed the boat on taking care of themselves, and a lot of them have signed up for trusting doctors, eating fast food. Obviously, if you look at obesity in parts of some of the most religious parts of the country, you can tell that the self-care isn't there. Now, if you look at the other end of the spectrum, like your yoga or kind of eco-conscious people, your meditators, your hippies, I'm not saying like your commune hippies, but that type, your more earthly type, have been extremely good about caring for themselves and not feeding their body a bunch of junk and fast food. However, they kind of missed the boat a little bit on taking care of others in the community. There definitely are a lot who do great things for the environment, but in the most part, you don't really ever see like the masses of yoga people ever creating a company that is providing shelter for the homeless. It's like usually your Christian communities or your churches are doing that. A lot of yoga people are kind of wrapped up online with the form of narcissism due to the fact that they're looped up in this material world or blinded by it. In order to be a successful yoga instructor, you have to like post all these videos and pictures of yourself. You have to wear the sexy clothing. America in general has just completely destroyed spirituality, any good form of it. So, for example, I have been kind of spiritual journeying since 2000. That was kind of my first start of it, but really since 2005. All right, I'm going to move a little bit because the sun's moving. And there is definitely a big difference in the way I live or do things now as compared to what I did, let's say 15, 20 years ago. One example that I would share is, for example, when you are kind of on a spiritual path, you don't really understand a lot of times the true interconnections of evil, or the true, let's just say, like demonic or satanic type of energies that are a part of certain establishments. So for example, you as a yoga instructor might be kind of awakened on some form of a level, but you still have trust in like Yoga Journal. You might look at people like Sean Korn as these great, amazing human beings that are doing awesome things for the planet, and you kind of want to be like them. Or you'll submit yourself into these contests to try to become like the Yoga Journal specialist. I see this a lot with kind of the more atheist freedom movement person, where they're definitely against everything that's happening and they're against the establishment, but they still kind of support certain types of artists who are a part of the, I don't know what you'd call it, the clan that's kind of indoctrinating people. I'm not sure how to best explain this because sometimes these thoughts don't verbally come out. I'm better at writing, but there definitely is a moment in time when you are just kind of on this path of awakening. You're like, oh, angel numbers are super cool and stuff like that. But then further along the line, you don't sit on the fence anymore. You're not really bouncing between one side and the other side of the fence, constantly only wanting spirit to give you the good things for you to have a good earthly abundant life. You kind of have to walk the talk a lot of times. And throughout my own personal life, because I've been through all of those, manifestation type of workshops and things like that, it was actually the more I let go of anything that I ever taught and just really practiced, learning my life lessons and not going backwards. So constantly moving forward from learning those life lessons and just not learning how to heal myself and just not having this attachment to the things that I taught or learned. These abundant things kind of came with time after learning life lessons. It had nothing to do with sitting down and meditating every day for 30 days. It had nothing to do about envisioning this dream house with a fucking boat and a dock. It's just that is the satanic the satanic infiltration of spirituality, because it is focused on the material realm. It is also focused on just wanting to please your earthly desires without you actually going and doing the work, like cleaning up your own messes, looking at your own shadow side, whatever that may be. So there are some people who, for example, they might be in this movement and they're like, well, I'm not against vaccines, but I'm against this one. And then there's other people who've just like really understood or understand like the whole history and lineage of shots and kind of realize, wow, this whole thing has been nothing but a horrible scam to keep us in a loop of really bad health. At some point you kind of have to question things in terms of like, wow, we're the most medically advanced and technologically advanced country. We're kind of pretty much the most powerful, or at least have been the most powerful for a very long time. How are we like the sickest nation in the world? How are our dementia and Alzheimer rates just like going out of the roof? So there comes a point when you are kind of full on awakened or have been doing this type of work for a really long time that you just don't sit on the fence anymore. And in order to help people who are kind of newly awakened, I've noticed this even with people I've gone to high school with. They've had health issues. Whether they had the shot or not is not irrelevant, but let's just say, it's like, oh, they've developed lupus and brain cancer at the age of 36, and it's kind of taken them a little bit of time hitting rock bottom and getting really sick in order to find some form of path of awakening that, wow, once they started living a more natural life, they actually started feeling better and started dumping out all of that processed food that kind of got them sick in the first place. So baby steps for these people is going to be necessary. You kind of have to get on everybody's learning and playing level. As a personal trainer, I've worked with morbid obesity before, and it's just really easy to tell somebody who's 500 pounds to start eating salads. It's really hard for them to actually do it because their palate is so addicted to processed junk food that is satiating their emotions that something like a salad is just not physically and emotionally nourishing as well. Look at two different pictures. Fast food, just look at burgers and french fries, and then look at like a raw food salad. Like what is your perception on that? Some people look at the burger and french fries as like the most delicious thing ever, and they look at the salad as like, ugh. To where for me, I'm like, oh, that salad is like filled with life, and I look at the burgers and french fries and I'm like, it's dead energy. There's nothing there. It's like cancer in a box, or cancer in a bag. So if you are kind of been on a path of awakening, this is another example I'm going to share. I have friends who are, let's say they're conservative, they're Christian conservative. They're against everything the establishment is doing. However, they still shop on Amazon and at Walmart. And there's nothing, here's the thing, a lot of people who are financially struggling, things like Walmart is kind of their only choice. I mean, I've lived in little towns like Walla Walla, Washington, where there is no Target. There was only Walmart and grocery stores. So there is a little bit of limitations for some people, especially if you live out in more rural areas. But like the thing that blows my mind is like if somebody is pro conservative values and has been kind of against some of the liberal stuff over the last few years, like why would you even support Amazon, especially because they live in the same city as I do, and they've seen how Amazon has just completely destroyed Seattle and its culture. So, you know, that's where it's, I'm not saying it's like serving two different masters, but it's like at some point you have to choose what side of the fence you're going to be on. It benefits them to shop at places like that because they have Amazon Prime and they get the free shipping. However, you know, something like Amazon continues to harm small businesses. It continues to man, I don't know, it's just a shitty company that's been, it's pure evil. It's been horrible to their own workers for a very long time. Maybe with Bezos getting out, it might have gotten a little bit better, but you know, it's slavery work. The warehouse work is not easy, and it has destroyed small businesses, especially here in Seattle. So I question, like, you know, it's at some point there's sacrifices that are better for you versus better for humanity. And like for somebody like me, I can't always afford, you know, the $6 almond milk that's at the local corner grocery store. However, you know, there are better options out there like Trader Joe's. Right now, I don't know of any horrible connections. You know, there are just grocery stores that are just grocery stores, like Safeway and Fred Meyer's. These aren't global companies that are trying to erase fucking cashier jobs and trying to erase everything else, small business, to where they could become the one-stop shop for like literally everything. So that's just my, I don't know if that's a good example or not, but that specific example I shared, it's like that person still eats fast food and kind of, because they're Christian, kind of laughs when I talk about, fast food is completely satanic energy. And it's like this benign mindset. It's like, oh, well, everything has a chemical in it. It's going to cause cancer. It's like, no, when you get to the point of awakening that you realize that the satanic infiltration into corporate America, whether it's through biotech or Monsanto or anything, has caused massive chaotic destruction. It's what I've talked about in other videos. You have destruction and you have creation. You have two different energies here. So when you're looking at these companies that have been destroying health, have been destroying the environment, that is not coming from the higher realm. That is not coming from Source or God, whatever nomenclature you want to use for that. So right now, because we are in these fragile times, it's really important to try to choose things that are more in alignment, I guess, with your values, but specifically more with creation in general. Because the more we start destructing things, the less creation will be able to thrive and survive in the future. Then we'll have our true apocalyptic doom and gloom like you see in all these Hollywood movies. There is no such thing as creation in that type of reality or lifestyle. So there is a little bit of a difference. We have to, those who have been on this path for a long time, you know, when you talk to people who are newly on the path, you have to get on their level. you know, if they're not into, another great example, like there are some people who kind of deep down know like things are off or wrong or all this has been bullshit, but then when you start talking about Freemasonry, it's like, oh, okay, you're just nuts. So, you know, it's like they're not quite there yet. So maybe just point out some, I don't know, facts from things that are just easier to understand. But these awakening processes happen for a long time. Like, for example, I truly started on my path of awakening in 2005, and you know, I just was in the spiritual communities in Seattle, and I just thought, oh my God, we're moving toward brotherhood and we're all going to be holding hands around the globe. I thought like the age of Aquarius was coming. And then I go to Germany and I was like, oh my God, I've been in like a coma for 30 years. So it's like I was always kind of awake for 10 years, but then it's like I really snapped out of it to really learn like what was happening on a more global level. And that took 10 years. So, you know, there's no judgment to where people are at, but it's going to take a lot of time, especially if they're not really on. Like, I have atheist friends who are part of the freedom movement, and I can't talk to them about the spiritual perspective. Sorry, I have like bugs crawling on me. I can't talk to them about the spiritual perspective of what's happening because they don't believe in it. They just think it's all stupid stuff. You know, one of them even said like, oh, religion and spirituality is just one dumb moron passing down stories to another dumb moron. And I'm like, well, does that dumb moron me? Because I personally don't think that. But that's the thing. They don't even understand themselves that atheism has been part of the plan, because when you disconnect people from your own, let's just say, culture or your spiritual roots, there is nothing, everything becomes very material, and there's nothing to have hope for that's higher or greater than yourself, especially in times of struggle. So I hope all have been well. It's finally cooled down here. It was like 90 some degrees for the last week, and it was just like sweltering. So it's a little cooler today, and I thought I could finally do this video without dying. And hope all is well. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Hope to see you again. Bye-bye.